here and go ahead and get a little illustration going. So I'm working on, for some of you that may be aware, some of you have seen videos and things like that, I'm working on a comic book idea. Been doing children's books a little over a year now, and I decided, it's time to do something different. It's time to flex my artistic muscle a little bit and want to do that by illustrating a full-blown comic book. As far as the how and the where and the publishing and all that stuff, I hadn't got that far yet, because the first thing I want to do is have a product ready to go and then go from there. So anyway, what I'm going to do is turn this around a little bit, let you see kind of what I'm working on, get it set up, and then I'm going to draw for a little bit, let you guys see what I'm doing. So a little peek behind the curtain, if you will. Anyway, let's see if we can turn this around. And there's that. Let's zoom it up there. Now, I'll tell you a couple of things about these characters that you're seeing before I get started on the drawing itself. In my head, ever since probably about, I was about 13 years old, there was a character in my head that's always been there, and I always thought, especially growing up, I read a lot of, my mother was a big Hardy Boys fan, so she read a lot of Hardy Boys books. And so I read some of them at different times. But one of the coolest things about it was I always thought, well, if Sherlock Holmes was another one of those characters I always enjoyed. But the thing about Sherlock Holmes was I thought it'd be cooler if he were black. So what would you do to make him black? Well, I grew up, during the 80s and 90s. And so, of course, the term homeboy kind of became, a big deal. And, it's not so much used now. Like, people, I don't know many people that refer to each other as homeboy or whatever. But what I did decide to do was go ahead and create a character called Sherlock Homeboy. And so he's been in and out of creation for different things for a while, and now I kind of get the chance to do this and kind of put him in a book of mine. So that's kind of the idea. But anyway, so in addition to that, Pencil Ninja's there, of course. The comic that I'm working on is called Sherlock Homeboy, or actually, I'm not sure if I want to call it Sherlock Homeboy in the case of the missing title belt, or if I want to call it Pencil Ninja in the case of the missing title belt. Because I've mentioned Sherlock Homeboy and some of the Pencil Ninja stuff, but I've never really fleshed him out as a character in it. Now some of y'all are probably wondering, that's way too much black. How are you going to get that to fit? I'll show you. Because there's a point I'm going to go ahead and have to pop some things out. And that may be a separate video, but I want to make sure all my ink is dried first. So that way when I pop the stuff out, it comes out white as opposed to, popping and kind of getting gray. Because I'm realizing that when I'm doing a lot of my ink work now, that I want to make sure those whites pop harder than anything else. So it's one thing that's funny about watching people when they do blacks and whites and stuff like that, and then they have a whole bunch of other blacks in the picture, as far as color goes, as far as the ink. You have to come up with a way to separate it, because otherwise it just becomes one big blob of blackness. So I really wanted to see what to do that, to get rid of that idea, to kind of go ahead and do some things. So anyway, the concept of this comic book is going to do with Lucha Libre Wrestling, which is something that, although, I haven't been a fan of Lucha Libre as long as I've been a fan of, say, American wrestling. The thing I like about Lucha Libre more than American wrestling is the mask and all that different stuff that people wear and get really creative with it. So I think that's really cool. And so I can come up with these crazy characters and, give them a mask and it all works. So I've got a family in the book that's going to be called the Phoenix Family. And they're basically the theme is a Phoenix theme. I've got a team that I'm working on that's going to be more like a Halloween style team. This is kind of one of the characters that I'm doing it based on. If you can kind of see, he looks a bit like the Headless Horseman. So even though he has a head, but of course anybody that's read the Headless Horseman story, they know that the Headless Horseman pretty much has that head, and that's not really a head there at all. Or is it? Because, there's a story for you. So no need to spoil things for that. If you've never read the Headless Horseman, I strongly suggest reading it. It's a classic, and they've done movies about it. I mean, they did the Johnny Depp one a few years ago with, I think, Christina Ricci and a bunch of other people. And so they did that movie, but, some things just better read than watched. So that's my opinion on that. So anyway, I wanted to at least go ahead and draw and ink out this character here. Let you guys kind of see the process behind my madness, so to speak, of illustration. I'm going to consider this possibly the cover One thing about a cover when you're doing a comic book, especially, you don't want to give away everything that's going to be in it. So you want to kind of come in and kind of do enough to lay some baselines out there, kind of get some things going. So anyway, work on my line, work on my pumpkin. So kind of get that pumpkin head there. Kind of give it a little bit more dimension. I didn't want to just make a round pumpkin head. I want to kind of give it some dimension and stuff. So, wow, there's eyes. Wow. Thin line there. Yeah, there we go. Getting those kind of evilly eyes. Go ahead and get his tongue there. So, anyway, kind of do that. Those lines there. Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead and get that line in there as well. Bring up a line kind of in the middle. Kind of thin it out. Kind of bring up some lines here because again, we're going to kind of still look like a pumpkin, even though it's not. It's, you can kind of imagine it's like a latex mask, but, you always want to give it that illusion. If a kid sees it, you always want to kind of give that illusion. Like you see the Rey Mysterio's mask in WWE and stuff, he's not really, there's really not really a mask there, but, we want to give that illusion that it could be a face. So with a lot of stuff, like if you watch Lucha Underground, they have really cool masks. Like they make them look like, creatures, or they make them look like dragons and everything like that. And so I kind of thought, when I was designing some of these characters, I was like, let's just have some real good fun. Let's just see what happens. Now, you'll have to read the comic to understand why this guy only has 3 fingers. I say 2 fingers and a thumb, but you have to see why he's only got, 3 fingers as opposed to the regular hand. Something kind of cool there. In my head, I kind of got this idea of how that's going to work. So then the coolest thing about him, besides the fact that, he's got flames coming off his head. So it's kind of like, well, what do you do to separate him from like the normal story of the normal headless horseman? Well, if his head's on fire, because why not, right? So his head's on fire. So that's why, kind of separates them. And again, we'll kind of go into how in the story is a simple story. It's a very simple detective story. You've got, Pencil Ninja goes into this Lucha Libre wrestling match for a charity auction. They go in and they're going to fight for this belt. And when they go to fight for this belt, all of a sudden the lights go out and the belt goes missing. And no one's quite for sure what happened. So, of course, Pencil Ninja and Sherlock Homeboy, who's one of his heroes, he kind of has to go in and figure out what happened to the belt. So, and then we're going to go ahead and work on. And I believe this is Andrade Phoenix, who is the dad of the Phoenix Clan. And so I kind of imagine, this one thing that's kind of cool about doing Lucha Libre stuff, there are generations and generations of Lucha Libre wrestlers. So, there's whole bloodlines that are involved in all this, and so it's really pretty cool. But anyway, so I wanted to draw kind of something that was bird related, but, like some of them have more like mask, and then the other, like he's the dad. So he just got this bird mask that's kind of like the Phoenix. And, probably when I do like a full picture of it that doesn't have him in the, blocked out or whatever, you'll see him actually have wings and everything. So, he'll be the dad, and then his wife will be, Phoenix person. There'll probably be like a young son who's a Phoenix person. And then the cool character is going to be, there's that little girl. And of course, I want to have kind of a subtext story of the idea that, they're like, oh, well, you're little, you can't really do much. And so then when it comes to the point where they have to face the person who took the title belt, it becomes a tag team match between the daughter and Pencil Ninja. And so Pencil Ninja has to kind of come in, and Sherlock Homeboy kind of supports him in the mission. He's kind of like, the only reason you can't beat this dude is because you don't believe you can beat him. If you believe you can beat him, you at least have a chance. Don't let him tell you otherwise. You got a chance to take him out, so go get him. So that's kind of that idea. What do you believe? Do you believe what he's telling you? Because he told you can't beat him. Does that make it true? you can't beat him, it's because you don't think you can. So that's kind of that idea. I really want to tell that story kind of, you got two people. One, is this kid who's kind of done a whole bunch of stuff. If you've read any of my books beforehand, Pencil Ninja just fought a lot of crazy people and people that are a lot bigger than him. So he isn't really worried about that. He's more concerned about the seriousness of the mission. His whole thing is that these kids that are there, this charity thing, are hoping that he wins, because if he doesn't win, then the money that they're raising for those kids gets stolen. And so he's very nervous and very concerned because he doesn't want the whole fate of the world kind of thing on him. But he's more than able to handle the situation. He just has to believe he is. And then with the little girl in the story, she's kind of the idea that, well, I've been told all my life I'm little, so I can't do anything. What am I going to do? What am I going to stop this person? And it's the fact that she has to believe. And her story and Pencil Ninja just kind of tie together, because she realizes she has to overcome what she's been told. And he realizes he has to overcome what he believes about himself. So it's kind of where that's going. So I'm going to tighten up some little small details real quick and then get out. So anyway, go ahead and do a thing there. Go ahead and get that eagle going. And then, I say eagle, it's a phoenix, but I'm not sure why I said eagle in that situation. But anyway, we'll put some fire in there around it. But anything that knows anything about a phoenix knows there's got to be flames. You can't rise with the phoenix without fire, right? So we'll put some fire in there. And that way we'll go ahead and, there we go. Put some flames in there on it. That's the plan. I want to kind of give him a belt that kind of connects to everything. So that's what that is. And then we'll do that. And there we go. So that's kind of what I'm doing. That's kind of what I'm thinking of my cover being. And it's going to be Pencil Ninja in the case of the missing title belt. So I'll kind of show y'all the picture. Ask questions. I'd love to see it. And maybe, like I said, I'll do another one of these where I show y'all how I kind of pop out the whites and everything, so that way it doesn't look like a big old blob of ink right here. It actually will look like people are standing in front of or behind each other. So anyway, guys, as always, above all else, be blessed, be a blessing to somebody. I'm going to flip the camera around so I say goodbye. There we go. All right. So listen, for those of you who create, period, I just want to say a big thank you. For those of you who continue to stay on this journey that I'm on and create things, I greatly appreciate it. So as always, be blessed and be a blessing to somebody, guys. Until next time, check this out, comment, ask questions. Go ahead. I'd love to see it. Anyway, take care, guys.